Let's discuss single inheritance with an example program. I want a program that should ask to enter roll number, name, then the user will give some details. Then the program should ask S1, S2 marks, then the user gives some details. Once the user enters the details, the program has to display that roll number, name, S1 marks, S2 marks, and it has to calculate those two marks and to display total and average. This is the program. So I want to write the program in single instance with I want to get this output with this program. Okay, let's see. Here is the program. I have one class called student. I have one class called student. In the student, I have one variable, numerical variable called rule number RNO. Okay, and one character variable called a name, and the maximum size I can store enter in this name is 20 characters. And here I am going to create a function called data, get data. Okay, and it is not going to return any value. That's why I have specified the return type as void. So when I execute this get data, I want to display the message called enter RNO and name. So I have specified with cout. Okay. Then when the user enters the details for roll number and name, I have to store them into RNO and name variables, which we have already defined in this program. Okay. This is one class. We use this class as a base class. That means the student class I am going to use as a base class. Now I have created another class called marks. I want to use this marks as a derived class to the student. So here I have to specify the relationship with the student with the colon keyword. Okay, I have specified the relations with the student, and at the student class is going to be used in public mode. That means all the properties of a student class can be accessed in marks. Okay, yes, in marks class I have declared some other variables. I need some variables for storing numerical values, so marks s1 s2, and I have to calculate the total value. So I need three numerical variables and one decimal variable. That's why I have defined average as a float variable. Here I'm going to create one function called get marks. Okay, this function is not going to return any value. That's why I have to specify the return type as void. Yes, here in this get marks, when I access or when I call this get marks, I want to call this get data. This get data is one of the member function of a class. Is it a member function of marks class? No, this is a member function of student class, right? Here is the get data. So I'm not specifying any marks directly, just I'm giving get data function here. That means just I'm calling it directly from marks which is there in student. Actually the get data function is from the student class, but directly I'm accessing the marks because of this is the derived class of a student. That means the all properties of a student class can be directly accessed in a derived class. That's why directly I'm calling a function from a base class. After calling this, that means when you call a get marks, it calls the get data. That means in the get data it will ask you enter roll number and name. The user will give the details. It will store into RNO and name. After that, I want to show some message like enter S1 S2 marks. Then the user will give the marks. I want to store them into S1 S2 variables which we already declared in marks class. After user entering these two data, I want to calculate them total and average, and I want to store them into total and average variable. Okay, so these are the two classes I'm creating. One is the base class. The student is a base class. In the student, I have two variables and one member function. Whereas marks is a derived class. In this derived class, we have three numerical variable, integer variable, one float variable, and I have a member function called get marks which calls the get data. Okay, next let's see if you call from the main function. Okay, here this is the program which I already discussed. Here in this program I am going to create another function called void display. Okay, I am creating another member function called, after this get marks I am creating another function called display. This also will not return any value, that's why I have specified return type as void. In this display I am going to show the roll number, name, S1, S2, total, average. But just observe this, just check this, roll number and roll number and the names, roll number and names are from base class, okay, and the rest of the variables we are getting from derived class. That means the roll number and name properties, name variables we are accessing from student class. That means directly from student to marks we are accessing the variables, okay. Here in the main function, what I am going to do, I am creating an object for marks. I am not creating any object for the student. Just check this. I'm just creating an object for marks. See, there is no object for the student even though we can access the properties of a student. Here in the marks object, from by using the marks object, I am calling a function called get marks. Where is the get marks? Here is the get marks. Okay. When I call the get marks, what will happen? It calls the get data first. So when you are calling the get marks means first it will execute the get data. Where is get data? Here is the get data. What will happen? What would be the output? It will ask you to enter roll number and name. Then the user will enter roll number and name. Those will store in RNO and name. Okay. Next, once the get data is complete, get data function execution is over, then it will come to the next statement. What is the next statement? You want to show enter S1 S2 marks. Then the system will show enter S2 S1 and S2 marks. Then the user will give the marks. Then the marks will store into S1 S2, right? Those marks will store into S1 S2. Just check this one, but the one which we have entered roll number and name are stored in student variable, and the one values we have entered S1 S2 are stored in marks variable, two different class variables. Okay. And next, once the values are entered, the system will calculate these total and average, then they stores into total and average variable. Okay, that get marks function is over now. Next, the main function will execute, will call the display function which is there in the marks class, okay, by using m object. Okay, then it will call display function. Here is the display function. Okay, when you're calling the display function, it shows roll number. Okay, where is the roll number? Is actually the roll number is from student class which you already entered RNO. That shows, that means the display function directly access the roll number variable from the student without any object. That is called inheriting a property from a base class. Next it shows the name. The name also will come from the base class. Directly it is accessing the name variable from the base class called student. Okay, then S1 S2 are displayed, S1 S2 total average, these values are displayed from the derived class called marks directly. Okay, because we have derived class object is only created, that's why marks class directly accessed, but the student class, the base class, is also accessing by the single object. This is called an inheritance. Okay, that means accessing the properties from one class to another class without any creating an object is the process of inheriting. Okay.